or is it just off? That's just under 5 inches. So it's a quarter of an inch less on that side than on this side. So that axle is pushing the steer axle sideways 1/4 of an inch every time it travels from here to there. Now, that 1/4 of an inch protracted measurement, that equals a less than a 64th of an inch shift. We couldn't correct it. Okay, so we're not worried about, we're saying it's practically straight, but it is a quarter of an inch off to the right. Right? Yeah.
Are both the back axles curved out, or are they just wider than the steer axle?
In this case, they're wider than the steer axle. On some newer tractors, especially like a dump truck with wide cymbals on the front, the drive axles are actually narrower than the.
So you want a difference on one side from the other.
Yeah.
The fact that they're both, I'm just visualizing that the back wheels are both going out like that. That's not what's
Yeah, no, these lasers are almost straight. And, yeah, I mean, if it was, let's say, the laser itself is about 2 inches away from the tire, and this axle is about 4 inches more than that drive axle on this 20-plus year old truck. On newer trucks, they're actually a wider steer axle. So that's just better. On this one, if the laser was then I would expect to see 4 and 4 for a perfectly straight axle. In this case, they're pointing out just a little bit on each side. So having it pointing out a little bit of each
You want more on that side than on the side.
on the rear drive axle, I want it to point this way 1/2 inch. On the laser, so it'll be about a 32nd of an inch shift. Yeah, it'll be a 32nd of an inch shift off to the right. What I want is the front drive axle, I want a 32nd of an inch to the right, or a half inch to the scale. The protracted measurement says it's a half inch off. That means that twice a shift, it'll be a 32nd inch. I point that axle a 32nd inch further uphill. I change these measurements by a half inch. So I would, if I had my druthers, I would like to see this at, say, 5 1/4, and a 4 3/4. Be a half inch off. If not 4, I want to see the opposite. Then I'd say that vehicle is set up perfectly to drive on the current road and push the vehicle up against the ground over. We call it the Dixie cup of things. If you roll an oil can, it rolls nice and straight because the circumference of both ends is the same. If you have a Dixie cup, the wide side travels toward the narrow side. And in this case, the axles act as the wall of that cup. And if the narrow side of tram is on the left side, the wide side's on the right side, I can get this vehicle to push up against the middle of the road. The wider it is, the more it pushes up against the middle of the road. So, going back to something that you can check yourself without having to go out and measure it, if the vehicle is set up right, the way we try to set it up, and you don't have a caster wedge up here, the caster is the same, then as the vehicle drives down at 6 miles an hour in the right hand of a 4-lane highway, and with no crosswinds, from the middle of the lane, you let go of the steering wheel, it should take just over 2 seconds before gravity wins and the vehicle finally meets the white line. Just over 2 seconds. So that means that that 32nd of an inch on each axle has been met. If it were wider than that, if it was a 16th of an inch on each axle, let's go with an extra 30 seconds instead of start. It would be more like 4 to 5 seconds before it finally reaches the white line. If it was a 16th of an inch on each axle, if it was an 1/8 of an inch wider on the right side than the left side, then it would be 30 seconds before it finally be an extra. If it was getting greater than that, you get it enough greater than that, then it takes upwards of a minute before it finally gives up and goes to the right. Tractors will get up, go to the back, get a cup of coffee, come back and sit down before it's finally reached the right. You could Don't try it.
There's a minute in a day where there's a process.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but anecdotally, I was told by a guy named Henry Albert, who was on this with us.
A lot of them.
And he had Chad. He was from Chad. He only has Chad and Jim touch his truck whenever he can. He said his was set up. He was on I-10 going through, I think, Alabama, and it was a nice straight stretch of quiet road at night. Nobody out there. He had a song on that he wanted to hear the whole song without touching the steering wheel. You let go of the steering wheel, you let the song play. It was almost a 3-minute song, and he has a new Cascadia. His Cascadia has an alarm that goes on. You don't touch the steering wheel. And he says it's always going on. Because his truck drives nice and straight down the road, so he doesn't have to touch it. In this case, it was just beeping for the whole length of the song. And he didn't have to let go of the steering wheel, or he didn't have to grab the steering wheel until the song was over. So almost 3 minutes we were late because the alignment was exactly where we wanted. Now, when it gets about over 10 seconds before the vehicle gets up and goes away, you're actually pushing the steering tires to the left, and you're going to get left-hand feather. And he did. I checked his truck. He was getting left-hand feather on both of the steering. But he said he was only going to have a touch point on one side. So leave it alone. All right. Any questions about that?
So you can push it too far,
Yeah.
get tire wear, but at the ideal amount of push, then the tires are doing the steering.
Yeah, the tires are, the tires don't have to do all of the steering to keep you going straight. The tires have to steer to get you off the steering.
Right.
That's the unfortunate, yes. And if you aren't consuming your steer tires to keep the vehicle going straight, then you're going to get the most life possible. So that's why using casters sucks as far as I'm concerned. Because that, when I see that caster, I know he's training steer tire life for an effective handle, where he could have just used drive tires to get that done.
So it's not always an ideal alignment just to check the front end alignment on a big truck.
No, that's less than half of your tire wear is to the front end. Well, I say you can screw up toe so bad. One full turn of that tie rod is 1 inch of toe turn, and you can screw up toe really bad, especially when you install a new tire. You have to get that right, or you'll destroy a set of tires in just a few hundred miles. But oh god, yeah. Okay.
Huh.
As far, go ahead.
Your caster, is that an app on your phone? Does every phone do that?
Say that again.
Your caster measurement, is that an app on the phone? Or is
It's an app on the phone.
Every phone capable of it?
Every phone can have that, yeah. Every new phone. My old flip phone. But yeah, I had a guy. I told him, hey, you got bad kingpins. I can feel it. There's play in your kingpin. You gotta get this stuff. He went to Wyoming. He got his kingpins replaced. He came back to Iowa to finish the alignment. And they said, okay, I got the truck back here, and can you see what's going on with the drive tires? There's something wrong back there. No, there's little rubber balls on it. I looked at the drive tires, and yeah, there's little rubber balls on the front drive tires. I don't know exactly what's going on there. And they go up to the front, and they're shaved off, because when they replaced the kingpins, they didn't touch the toe at all, and just completely screwed his toe. The rubber back there was the steer tires just coming apart. So yes, you got
Well, alignment was extra for that job.
Yeah, you got to make sure that your toe is set whenever you work up front. But typically, this steer axle alignment is only half of the tire. Drive axle alignment is there. So yeah, the front end alignment.
A lot of people call, I just needed front end alignment. I outright tell them, like most of us at MD alignment shops, we give you a 60-day, 30,000 mile guarantee.
Right.
There isn't other alignments that do that. But when you come in, we start with a complete mechanical inspection. We're going to check your kingpins, we're going to check the bearings, we're gonna go through all the bushings, your torque rods, whatever it is. If those things are out, if those bushings are shot, no alignment's gonna hold. So you're throwing your money away, and I'm not gonna give you a guarantee when the bushings aren't there. And a lot of the MD alignment shops all do all of that work, myself included. For any of the registered drivers here today, I was blessed with, we have a really cool group of guys that, well, I'm the only chick there, but that's beside the point. But all the guys, I've got Chad, who was supposed to be here, but he tore his rotor cuff, trying to bust a bolt with the cheater car that I said, why are you using the cheater car? And so he didn't think he could make the drive from Arizona up. I was like, you make 30 minutes. I'm like, okay. Kevin and I will take care of it.
But he's offering alignment.
Yep, a free alignment from Chad, Alignment Solutions, either in Kansas City or in Arizona. Free alignment was offered by Kevin Beckett. He'll do yours himself down in Des Moines. A free alignment from Rocky in North Florida, Jacksonville. Free alignment from Martine in Ocala, Florida, and Jim for Michigan alignment, and then S&B. We're all donating, so a 3-axle alignment for most of us. We charge $135 an axle, so it's 405. So it's good value. So if you're lucky enough at the driver dinner, those are the prizes that our MD group has issued. So you can go to any of us, and we all work together.
Your shop's in Brandon.
My shop's in Brandon. Yep. If it's just alignments, we can do mobile stuff. I prefer stuff goes to the shop. Like a guy last week was one of those weeks. First guy came in, I just needed alignment. My shop checked everything out. Those bushings were completely gone. Needed torque rods. Didn't need kingpins, thank God. So he's coming in, but we'll get it all done. If I'm doing this remotely, I don't know that I can do that. Second one, he needed kingpins, and then he needed all new C springs, all the stabilizer bars, everything. So it had that truck for 3 days by the time we got it all done. And I hate even being the person that tells a guy, well, you need this, 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 and this. But if I don't tell you, just doing alignment, it's not going to help you. And that's what I found in a lot of the typical racks. The reason I got into this is because I had my own semi-trucks. And I was getting 80,000 miles out of set steers. And I listened to, I'm one of those trucking rodeo, Rutherford, even though he's kind of stubborn sometimes. I piss him off, but that's okay. But listening to it, I finally called Mike. I'm like, well, I had rented a shop in Brandon just for my safety consulting business, because I thought I was going to store the motorhome in there in the winter, because I was paying rent in Sioux Falls for my safety consulting and rent for a storage unit year round. Well, then I'm tired of spending money on tires, so after talking with Mike, I'm like, okay, we're going to turn this into an alignment shop. Brian, find somewhere for going. Then it grew, and we do the Dr. Preload wheel bearing adjustments, and I brought a new mechanic in about a year and a half ago who was doing his own mobile stuff out of Iowa, but there wasn't as many trucks there, and my shop's usually pretty busy. So
that route drive axle is pointing about to the right.
Sorry, anyway, I would just.
yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Like steers.
That's what we got. Tell us, like when I was talking to
So with this particular truck right here, what's the issues that the driver owner's been having? What do you find we need to do?
well, like I said, there's no feathering over here.
How many
There's a
miles
little
are on these?
inside edge feathering over there. Like if you run your hand across the side, it's basically the same. Really nice and smooth. So I figure it's got to be a right pull plus toe out. And so far, what's that measurement over there? I think they're still trying to get it, but this number's higher than the rear drive axle was. So I'm going to assume this axle is pointing further to the right than the rear one was. And that's the opposite of what I wanted to see based on what Dixie kept doing. I wanted this number to be lower. So I think that front drive axle needs to point to the left a little bit, and the steer axle needs to be towed in just a little bit. and we need to get rid of that
This was
pester.
at 5 and
Do those three things, and I should use some just fantastic tire welders. When you increase the
just over 4 3/4 on that side.
side like this, so this is 3/4 of an inch to the right, the other one was 1/4 of an inch to the right. That's the opposite of what I would have wanted to see. This needs to move 16th plus a 32nd to the right. And then, yeah, that's the whole misalignment of the rear end. It's an 8-bag suspension. They're really, they react very well, very exactly to the shim, like a 16-inch front drive axle. They'll move that axle 3/4 of an inch on these scales. So the 3/4 of an inch that's pointing right is 1/16 inch shim, and then it'd be a 0. But that's not good enough. It needs to go to the left. So I have a 32nd shim. Now you go to the direction of the front and the rear, and we're happy. It was what's that, Flex Air or a Volvo. They don't react the same. You gotta have a couple extra shifts.
That flex air, that's the half circle.
Yeah, the D-shaped spring.
Kenworth, what is it, 380 or whatever. Is there something to that? Some guys tell me that flex air, that's too wide behind or
Yeah, I mean, like you said, where I want this is on that situation. I want
but obviously like misalignment back there is going to do it. I mean, if it kicks off, it's going to affect it negatively. But
Right. So, the rear end alignment is not going to cost drive tires life. Drive tires do the pushing, they don't get pushed. The split, as long as it's with the longer isn't going to cause any problems with the wheels or the tires. They'll wear just as normal. The whole reaction will be that it's pushing the steer axle up against the front of the road better and provides a better experience for the driver in the cab. That's it.
So on the rear axle, it's the spread is always going to be a little wider on the passenger side.
That's what I want.
Consistent that on half inch or so again, the additional spread between the rear axles.
Have you measured it as tram?
How much is that gap going to be?
Yeah, it should be between a 16th and
That's all.
yeah.
What's the average?
No, that's too much. We're inside of the factory spec, well inside the factory. Almost 0, but we're not quite. So, anyway, as long as we get it just there, then we'll get the actual one. It's like I said, it's like the factory spec on one of those Freightliner Cascades is our test or our feature for our seminars and things. Freightliner Cascade specs. They will allow a 3/16 of an inch off on each axle, and they would call that good for factory spec. So the performance spec, it has to be better than the factory spec. It has to. If you're not willing to accept that, then just
And not one truck comes right from the factory. They only have 7 minutes per truck is what the standard is to
that's
align
all
a
it
truck.
can get it off the line.
get it
Right. And so I always, when I got a new truck, got it aligned right away. One thing that will happen though is your bushings will settle, which will change the thrust angles. So if we do a bushing job for anybody or anything, a lot of times, get 20,000 miles on it, let's remeasure, making the adjustments we need to do.
That's a big reason for that 30-day, 60,000 mile warranty. Your 6-day, 30.
So you do pushing, you do alignment on it, but then you want to do a checkup on it.
I want to do a checkup after about 20,000 miles, and we don't charge you to do that because when those bushing settles, that thrust angle might have changed. Well, then my guarantee's no good, and that's why I want to look at it if we do bushings.
And as an extra bonus, we know that it's going to be real easy to make the adjustment because we just got the bolts in.
Right.
Yeah.
And that new truck,
And did you put NIC?
I was going to say.
sometimes, a new truck, you have to do it. We did a study with Schneider on Grand View. We measured them in the Dublin, Virginia plant, and then measured them again when we got delivered to Schneider and when we checked them in at the Dublin plant, they were dead on right what they said they were going to have. They said it was going to be 0 on the drives. They said the toe was going to be a 16 inch toe in. They were right. That's what it was. But by the time it got to the morning, they piggybacked on it. And the one that was doing the driving changed almost an eighth of an inch on every axle. 20,000 miles later, we checked all the trucks again, and all of them had changed again, as much as an eighth of an inch. We reset them at 20,000 miles at that next wind surge, and then we checked them again at 100,000 miles. In the next 80,000 miles, they didn't change at all. None of them. They all settled in the first 20,000 miles, and then held that alignment for the next, actually, I think like over a quarter million miles. So get it right at the first in service, and it will stay right for most of the rest of the time.
I know Tony's gonna be starting to do his sound check pretty soon, but does anybody have any more questions? And if don't think of it now, Kevin's in the S&B
Yeah, I'll be
booth
up
all
there.
week.
On my rear axle construction, I've got a little bit of rear, about 160.
Alright, well that's two real possibilities. The first possibility is what it always was before that's bearings. And it's almost, it's pretty likely because we're seeing it both inside and outside the tire.
Yeah, but not
If it was just the inside of the inside tire, it could be axle flex, which is and it's not that it's new that axles flex. They've always flexed. It's new that the tires can't handle it because they've got that low rolling resistance and other things. These got those Falcon tires back there. They're not low rolling resistant tires. They put up with that abuse. They're great tires. I like them. But your nice Michelin's and Bridgestone, they start coming on that inside edge, and they're the key to the fuel economy of those things. So it could be just the axle flex, but because it's also showing up on that outside tire, I almost guarantee you that was good. That's the one thing that actually has movement in the wheel end that causes it. Tilts in at the top and tilts out at the front, the looser it gets. So you just start seeing more inside edge wear, and then as you start seeing it on the inside, the outside tire, then you start seeing it back home all the way across it. That's true on drag tires and trailer tires. And more recently, trailer tires are almost all axle flex issues because almost everybody uses Henderson large diameter axle. It's a larger diameter, but it's this thick. So it's thin as a coke can, and it's flexing under that load. It's correct engineering for the weight, but it's not good for the tire.
Maybe
Some tires.
well, angle iron on top of it, stiffen it up.
My big reason for expected with 26,000 pound axles, Holland suspension, of course, it's a 13-foot spread, but it has the tire inflation on it. I attribute to the oxygen tire wear it has to that with heavy axle.
It's a spread thing. So the spread axle is always good for terrible tire wear.
But I mean, other than skidding and return, if I didn't lift the axle all the way up, but I mean, as far as stopping and all that crap, I mean, I got complaining about on the spread, front axle, side and wear, it's like, never had that.
Right. Okay. Yep. So you've got multiple wear issues to worry about because of the suspension. But yeah, the inside edge wear is a bigger and bigger problem because of they're all going to lighter suspensions, and now those lighter suspensions are seeing more accidents.
So back to the inflation pressure, and then when you get in the heat,
Yeah.
that one for the box is preset as 100 pounds, but also in heat rate, the heat. 10 degrees and I get to Texas and it's 80 degrees.
Don't touch it until it's cooled for 2 hours. It does, you know, whether you're driving from Maine all the way down to Florida, and it was -10 in Maine, it's going to be 60 in Florida. It doesn't matter. Don't touch it until it's after 2 hours.
Well, I didn't have to, it was automatic.
Yeah, well, and that's to me, that's a problem again, because you're not supposed to be lowering the pressure to 100. That was your cold pressure. Your operating pressure is supposed to be 15% above that.
So you're not into inflation system.
No, I don't. I'm not right now. I mean, a lot of people find that they work, but there are problems, such as they have the oldest patented item on the whole truck is the Schrader valve. It's over 100 years old, and every inflation system has a dozen or Schrader valves. If one of those valves fails, then the inflation system isn't telling you that it's not feeding you enough tire. It's just telling you that it's feeding pounds into the system. And you know, one tire is dead as can be, and every tire is dragging it.
Well, it was the Hendrickson Tire Max Pro. I don't remember, is that the one that deflates or that just keeps?
That may deflate. I don't know. I'm not sure personally about which is right. I'd rather have TPMS systems because I want to know what the pressure is. If the TPMS systems can fail, but if it fails, you know, that's information too. At least it's not lying to you and saying what the pressure is.
Right.
And it's
Well, it was like when I never walked around it when I was in my pre-trip and not pound on it. I always check that, but I just figured I got 8 tires on the rig that I know is going to have a 100 pound pressure if the system's working.
right. And in that sense, with the pressure system, it's especially if you're checking it every pre-check closely, it got you to your next stop. And then when you check it later, you may discover, oh shit, I got a flat tire. But
And I've had that where you get fired up and the light comes on. And it's like, okay, there's on the flow, and I never, you go check it and you can feel it. I never put a gauge on it, but after a while the light will go out. Up to, so at least you're up to pressure until you get it fixed.
right, right. I appreciate that. And then with the TPMS system, it's the other way. It's telling you that you have a tire that
That's where you have the sensor on the sensor on each tire, and then you have the monitor the cab, right?
right. And then you can plan on getting it changed when you need to instead of being on the side of the road. So I mean, something's better than nothing. And if you've got an inflation system on your truck, I don't recommend taking one. But when they're more than 100,000 miles old, you got to know that an inflation system might not work 100% of the time. So you got to keep a close eye on it. So getting those hoses that have an extra check in them, so you can check each tire individually, is helpful. Of course, that's a cost too. So each step's another cost.
Right.
Kevin does have all of my books for sale at my booth if you guys want to learn anything.
On our cards.
He's got cards. I appreciate you guys taking time to stand out here for an hour.
Yeah.
Hopefully
So we
you
never
learned
get this
something.
up, but I was going to find the sheet.
All right. Well, we'll let Tony start. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I
Thanks
appreciate
for the
it.
volunteer.
Thanks for coming and
Have a
listening.
good day.
It's interesting.
What's that? Well, officially, he's mostly retired, but they
Yeah, he answers it every time.
Well, I might consider having them check
But I think I'd like to double check with what I've reported.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting since I've never had a truck that's been so happy.
The only problem I have is
Yeah.
there's no speed.
It's good. That's great.
It's important to keep things right. Wheels don't fall off whether you look at them.
Right. Well, it was too late by then. You should. What's that? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That combination would be very low out of alignment. In fact, before it sold those trucks, I had 5 of them new. There wasn't a single one that was anywhere near inspect.
Yeah.
We were so sloppy. Well, I guess we were
Yeah. And it's individually placed, so cut. It's the cut and weld version. Yeah, that's.
I mean, the good thing about it is once it's done, you never have to.
Yeah, I think you get that caster went out and.
Change it.
It's kind of fascinating. I usually don't get into that technical crap, but it's kind of interesting. Well, I can't believe it. I'm going to get back to you. I can't believe it. That's on the truck.
Yeah, but I'm gonna get back to you. Alright, Brian.
Yeah.